Hello and welcome to the Seed Group Podcast. Hello, seedlings. It's a pleasure to welcome our special guest today. Albert, would you like to introduce her?
Yes, we have. I always tell everybody she's one of my cousins, but you never know. Miss Dr. Benita Anderson, renowned teacher's teacher. She helps teachers do a better job of what they do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
For you, anytime. We've been trying to get you on here for the longest. You have a busy schedule.
I'm glad we made it work out.
Yes, because you are the founder and CEO of Stretch.
Yes.
So can you explain that acronym to us?
Absolutely. Stretch, Educational Training and Support. The acronym is for Setting Trends and Redefining Education Through Creativity and Habit. That's where the letters are from. And that basically says what I do. What my mission was from the beginning was to help teachers change things, help especially younger teachers, and I serve as a mentor in my work for a long time. And as we see the teacher shortage, nationwide teacher shortage, we hear about it all the time, and teachers leaving the profession. My goal is to use not only my experience, but research value, do a lot of research-based work that I did for my doctorate to help teachers stay in the profession and let them know the struggles that we go through, you can work through it.
Strenuous, very strenuous.
So one of my goals, so when I say setting trends, I mean look at new ways to do things, especially since COVID, but even before that. You hear, I guess, people outside the school system say, these kids, something's wrong with these kids. Well, we have to meet them where they are.
That's true. Right.
And that's what I want to help with. They're still, they're human. We're human. We all have our challenges, especially post-COVID. We have challenges. But there are ways, there's so many creative ways. And one of the things, or I should say the attributes that a teacher has is creativity, right?
Yes.
Would you agree?
I agree.
Your best teachers, they were creative, and they had ways of going about meeting the needs. Now, it can be tough differentiating instruction for the different needs in the classroom, especially now with the trauma, but it can be done, and that's what I do, and that's what I still do to this day. It's
beautiful.
Speak to teachers. We practice things in my sessions. We actually do hands-on. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm teaching, we model it. They teach it. I have them teach it to the group.
Okay, and so that was your catalyst for creating Stretch, was what you were seeing in the field of education. Right,
because one of my primary responsibilities as an administrator was evaluating instruction and evaluating teachers. So there were times when I knew I had a good teacher, that I was working with, but they struggled with classroom management.
Right.
They struggled, they could do, to be specific, the teachers that I worked with were career and tech ed teachers.
Okay.
Meaning I recruited people who had, one guy had an automotive shop.
Okay.
So he was very good with the skills that he taught, the content, the skills, but working with adolescents, that was my job to get him up to par on that. And it often took a year to get some of them there. I had a chef, just various people out of industry. So I think that's what I feel makes me or helps me to kind of understand when people come into a classroom and are just lost when the students start being students or something they didn't expect, something that wasn't in the, I say things that weren't in the textbook.
Right. Thank you.
We've all we all go through the, the education part of being a teacher, but everything's not in there. I'm sure you know.
One of my granddaughters today, she's in high school now and a senior, and she was just telling us today about an incident that happened quite a while ago with a student and a teacher. And she said, the respect has to be both ways, because we're not just kids. We're talking about seniors now.
Yeah.
Even if they were freshmen, but like she said, you still have to respect the student.
Absolutely.
Even though the students still have to respect the teachers, it goes both ways.
Yes.
And sometimes, like you said, you have to teach the teacher how to get a better response out of them. young adults.
And that's one of the, when I do the sessions on social emotional learning, and we do mindfulness exercises, one of the things we do is exercises that show how to respect each other. You know what I mean? And that we're all human.
Right.
We do I teach self-awareness to the teachers.
Right.
So they can teach it to the students, and so everybody understands why I'm feeling this way today, why I said what I said, why I did. So it's something that needs to be incorporated into all content areas. It's work. I'm willing to admit that. It's work, but through habit, like I said, developing creative habits that every day, this is a routine for us. It's not our content, it's not our math, it's not our science, but every day our day starts with this, or in high school, every class period starts with this. Every class period ends with this. And I'm talking, for lack of a better term, mantras, if you will. Something that, first of all, it gives the kid a sense of belonging. They understand, and the more you do it, the more they understand why you're doing it. And there's a structure in it too. So that's where I am on the fact I understand what you're saying, and we see that all the time, of course.
I have to refer you to a certain high school, but I won't name any names.
Sure.
But I mean, structure.
What is that?
No comment.
We will mention that after the broadcast. We'll mention that.
Okay.
But
check out Seafood After Dark. You can hear what we're talking about.
But structure is very important. I think no matter what the age group, structure is very important, where you might not be able to be anticipatory of what will happen throughout the day or throughout that class, but at least for the beginning and the end, you know you're going to have that solid base.
It helps.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of kids, no matter the age group now, are looking for, especially with the social emotional things that have happened since COVID, they're looking for that solid structure, that solid base to land on, to inform them about the rest of their day or the rest of that class. And teachers need it too.
Absolutely.
And so I know you do conferences. You do a lot of conferences. Matter of fact, would you like to talk about some of the conferences you do, and then I'll ask the follow-up question.
Okay, so for 2023, I focused on pre-service teachers. So I'm part of an organization called Association for Teacher Educators. So these are the people, the colleagues that I'm with there are basically the university professors who teach in the College of Education. So in 23, I did their one conference in Jacksonville and one in Nashville. And so I had an opportunity to work with young professors who taught in the College of Education, but also they brought some of their students there too. So these are pre-service teachers who were just starting their student teaching. And I'm going to tell you, my favorite part was when I met and got a chance to talk with a teacher who had been in the classroom as a student teacher. Because that's the best lesson ever. That's everything, everything we learn in the book, everything we teach, all the certification tests we take, there's nothing like standing before those 30 faces. And that's the best teacher. And so getting an opportunity to give them feedback when they bring their questions, like, oh man, guess what happened to me? I couldn't believe she did that. And she said, we laugh and, and I tell them it's okay to relax and have some humor. They don't have to see you laugh all the time.
Thank you.
But we kind of talk about, even though we are human, nobody wants to be disrespected, right? Nobody wants to be undermined. But when you're talking about a fifth grader that has said something to you that wasn't pleasant, there's you see it a different way than if your peer says it to you, right?
Yes,
Because one of the things is you're dealing with, what was she feeling? What was she thinking? What made her now? I will say, if there are 30 of them looking at you, you might not be able to feel that empathy at that moment. And that's what we work on in my workshops. I create scenarios. Or sometimes teachers bring real life, which is even better. Real life stories. And we said, well, how could we have handled it? What would have made her? And then we do go back to textbook type things, you know, like what's going on, you know, in a nervous system at that time.
How to resolve the issue.
And how to, long term, you know, over time, help the child to see, you know, that they can deal with whatever they're dealing with, because I'm sure you'd agree that's the bottom line.
Yes.
If they're lashing out at teachers, they're dealing with something.
There is always a reason. There's never it comes out of the blue. We don't know what. There's always a reason. So that leads to my follow-up question about your conferences. How do you incorporate the hands-on instruction for the teachers to get what you're trying to convey to them? What is an example?
Okay. So, like I said, I have scenarios with me. I have an arsenal of scenarios. So, I use polls. You know, we usually open up with a poll. Like, one, I'll just tell you, to generate interest and to open up a discussion, I might say, what do you have in a poll? What is a student feeling when he says, you're doing too much? You be doing too much.
I always wondered about that.
I'll ask, I have everybody respond on what do you think they really feel? What are they saying? And so that's kind of an opener. The way I open things up, I have different things that I open up with. And just like you all responded, they respond because they just heard it yesterday.
Thank you.
Somebody just said it. Yeah, somebody just said it to them yesterday.
Right.
So, and then we go from there as to, when you say, how do you determine the content of my presentations, the descriptions and all that are in the program already. However, I enjoy coming up with a way, I'll say as one who sat through a lot of professional development in my career, and so we literally sat through it like sit and get. I'll never do that. I don't have any sit and get presentations. So everybody has to be involved in some way.
And I appreciate that, because I don't think anybody, no matter where you are, in corporate conferences, educational conferences, nobody wants to be talked at. You know, everybody wants to feel that they're a part of what's going on, because minds begin to wander. I remember a meeting for a thing that I was at, and literally I was taking notes. And when I looked at the notes, it was scribble scrabble, because I had fell asleep and zoned out. So I love, no matter where I'm at, I love interaction. I love being made to feel, I think as anybody would, even those that are in meetings, that they're not very vocal, I think they like to know that they're at least somehow part of what's going on.
Can I add something else to that?
Yes.
From a teacher standpoint, if you model that, and that's what we do in our conferences and our meetings, that's what we do. I want them to think about how your students feel when you talk for 20 minutes.
Thank you.
They're not listening anymore.
Nope.
So that's one of the things that one of my topics is student engagement and motivation. So again, new teachers, we even have, as I consider myself, seasoned teachers who become very comfortable and, passing out the worksheets. That's a chapter in my book. Passing out worksheets, and those same worksheets have worked for so long, and then it becomes something's wrong with the students, because they're no longer sitting there filling out worksheets and when they finish folding their hands. It's not that kind of party. So we have to change. We have to develop creative ways of giving out the same information.
Engagement?
Absolutely. Getting them engaged and making them want to be engaged. Through, we talk about video games, AI, everything that's grabbing their attention. We have to capitalize on that. I've tried to pick up on everything I can that they're doing. I want to know what Fortnite is, because I can write a lesson plan around it.
I know what Fortnite is. I played Fortnite.
Dr. Jones, that was here before, she's working with a STEM program, and that's what she does. Is things like that to get the children engaged.
To get them engaged.
That is so cool. And then I told her about you was coming. She said she might try to drop by because she wanted to meet you.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, Dr. Anderson's going to be there tonight. And she said, oh, one of your cousins. I said, yeah, here we go again. Yes.
Yes, we are.
We have some educators.
I have a question. Have teachers come to you about the technology piece of the puzzle that's added to them? You mentioned AI. And have they been having issues with technology departments, or just like having the students having enough technology or understanding the technology?
In public education, that can be a problem all the time. It varies with the school district, of course, and where it's located, and what their base looks like in terms of revenue, and how they're spending.
Right.
But it depends. I'm going to tell you, because of the what I do, I have more teachers asking questions. Let's go back to COVID for a minute.
Okay.
That did it.
When school shut down, March 13th, 2020.
Yep. I think everybody remembers.
When school shut down, I was actually going into schools doing professional development. And of course, that shut down. And a few of the teachers that I knew, I'd say seasoned or mid-career, started calling, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. They're saying we're going to have to teach, from home. My kids are, the cameras are off. I can't, they log on and then I don't see them anymore. And so to answer your question about, one of the things that I think is we have to make sure our teachers are, I won't even say savvy, but we have to incorporate, and I talk about this in my book, we have to incorporate technology into every single aspect now.
Definitely.
Does that mean you can put your textbook away? Not necessarily. Some kids don't learn through virtual. They don't learn through virtual. They don't learn through, they don't like reading books on screens. So I still believe in textbooks. But as far as now the teachers, I believe that as leaders, we have to make it a part of our professional development to say, no, you have to learn to, I was going to say at COVID, I had a teacher call me, and she was being very candid. She said, all I've ever done with that computer is put my attendance in, put my grades in. And now they want me to teach my students, and school just shut down just like that for her. So she's at home. She said, and then I came and went and got the laptop, but, somewhat comically, she said, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So she actually came to my house and we sat through and kind of worked some things out. And another good thing in her case was she had a young, not student teacher, but first year teacher that she was mentoring as a teacher. So now this young lady was able to help her from the technology standpoint. So she ended up doing a lot of work for her to help her. Now, Marcus, was your question related to the teachers, or you meant IT in general?
Well, IT in general, but more so on the teacher side, because I've worked with schools before, and it's been a problem with management. Teachers not only have their job to teach the students, but now they're managing computers, and it's taxing on them. It has been taxing on them because they already have to watch the children and teach them, but now they have to make sure this kid doesn't break this Chromebook or computer. And I can see the frustration dealing with being on the other side, being an IT person there, and I can say, I will take that, get it fixed, but now they have to manage parents, getting parents to sign to say that their kid broke something, and that can that can go a whole year. And it's frustrating I see the frustration on the teacher. And I feel bad for them because some of the teachers are retired teachers that come back into the school system for whatever reason, and they have to deal with the iPads, the software updates, making sure the kids don't break them. And so I just feel like, I don't know. I wonder, do the teachers come to you and say, hey, this is going on, and it's holding back teaching because we don't either have enough, or the students are not computer savvy enough, and the teacher is not savvy enough to teach the lessons through that software or technology.
I can say as a listening ear, yes. You know, I do listen, and those are the types of conversations that come up in presentations, and you know, we have discussions around it. But if I could go back a little bit, my career as a teacher started in computers as a computer teacher.
Okay.
Oh,
That's what I taught. So everything you're saying makes sense to me. Back then, they were all desktops. I won't tell you how far.
No comment, I remember.
But
I remember floppy disk.
absolutely, 5 1/4,
We won't talk
3
about
1/2, and 5 1/4.
Yes.
But anyway, it is frustrating. Technology is frustrating. We, as someone who, pretty much throughout my career, there was technology in my classroom because that's what I taught. It is frustrating when something breaks. So I guess over time you learn to have a backup plan. There's always a backup plan, partnering students. So yes, I can imagine though teachers who don't teach technology. That would be a part of their frustration. So I get it, and I'm glad they have you there to support them.
There was, I used to be a substitute teacher. Don't know why.
I wasn't going to tell her that.
Yeah, okay. And now time for Norman's rant.
He's not ranting.
No, there's no rant.
No.
My whole thing of it was that it seemed like there was this almost universal type of attitude that the teachers were so beat down, that they weren't really effective in teaching because there was nothing in here for them to do that. The kids would come, they were undisciplined, you could send them home with a note saying that, you've been at, and they come back the next day doing the same thing because nothing was done. You put them in these timeout rooms and stuff like that, and they go and they have themselves a ball.
Right, thank you.
You can even threaten them, not necessarily with physical violence or anything like
Yeah,
that.
not with physical violence. No, not with physical violence.
I had to put that in. I made sure I put that in. It took a lot for me to go and do bats are ineffective.
Oh, okay.
More like electricity. Anyway.
Send all your emails too.
Right.
But it was like being a male, they didn't test me as much as they do the women teachers. It's like they show no respect and no fear from the women's teacher because it's like you could say, okay, I'm going to send you to the principal's office. And they skip all the way to the principal's office because they're going to do nothing in there, and then the principal doesn't want to be bothered with them, so in 10 minutes they send them back. So there was no punishment, there was no
consequences.
Consequences, yeah, there was no consequences to that. And that was one of the things that irritated me the most is because, okay, these kids were not trained to learn. Their mindset was not on learning. It was like, okay, you can babysit me and I'll go and I'll do this, One little boy was just walking all around the room and disturbing everything like that, And I finally had to go up to him and, put my arm around him.
Which you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
We didn't say chokehold. He said he put his arm around him. He didn't say.
I went to court for putting my arm around a kid because he literally said, "You heard me, you heard me." I said, "Baby, I'm just putting my arm around you. I need to talk to you." And he literally, his dad took me to court.
Really?
Yeah. And I laughed about it when I got to court because I just happened to be some people I knew, which was wrong, but I mean.
But I think that's.
But I understand what Norman's saying because the problem, this is why she does what she does to help you how to cope with that. Because that's what, like she mentions, it's a cope. Dr. Anderson was saying it's a coping mechanism to figure out what's going on with the child. Because you're there to teach it, but if something's wrong, you can't teach somebody that's having a problem somewhere else unless Yes.
So if I can jump in here for a minute,
Be my guest.
it's structure, and it's what's missing is rituals and routines
Right.
and expectations. So let me just, if you don't mind, I want to say this. With that, this is from us, the leaders. Why does the child know that nothing's going to happen when they go there? Because, like you said, they know going to the principal's office, but they already know nothing's going to happen. Why do they know that? Why, so that is not a teacher issue, because there's a reason why the child knows nothing's going to happen. And so it's a matter of, and let me just tell you, I've seen a lot of programs that work as far as once the child can no longer be in the classroom, even if it's for a short time. There are programs, I think I've seen the worst and the best. I've seen the one,
Tell us about the best.
and I'm going to talk about in-school suspension. That's when in high school we call
That's
it
a hot
in-school
topic too.
suspension.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when we staff our in-school suspension rooms, we have to be very intentional about that. It's not a babysitting job.
Exactly.
It's not where you take an unskilled person or a person who doesn't work with students and say, oh, we'll put them in school. And so I don't think we knew that, 25 years ago.
Okay.
We thought that's what that was, and that's not what that is. A detention supervisor or an in-school supervisor's job, or to make it effective, they have something pretty much undesirable waiting for their kid when he gets there. There's no card playing. There used to be card playing in in-school suspension. I remember
Wow.
that.
Okay.
There's nothing. Everything that goes on in there, and this, you talk about technology. Having enough technology to accommodate a child or a student who was not able to function in the regular classroom that day, having a computer available to them, and what they're doing on that computer is learning self-awareness and self-regulation skills while they're there. And they're actually filling out forms saying, this is what happened, explain the incident, what were you feeling, why did it happen? And they have a time frame to get that in to that supervisor. So when they hear you're going to end school, they're not so joyful about that because they've been there before. And then someone wrote a program where when you come back the second time, it goes up a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to need a paragraph this time.
Okay.
And I'm going to need you to make sure it's, punctuated properly. And in school became not so desirable, so that alone helps them to make a better decision when they're with you, if they know that's where they're headed, right? And I want to say from the sub standpoint, that, well, I don't want to be unrealistic about it, but for the most part, what you're getting is based on the rituals and routines that were set.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
And my thing wasn't, by no means was I figuring that the teachers were to blame for that, because from what I saw, all of this came from home. Now whether it came from home because there's problems at home, or whether the parents were both working and so the child got no discipline or no, support or whatever, steering to teach him, okay, you go from this way. Some was able to, do that with. But the problem that I face most of the time was when I've got this little girl and this little boy and another one over here, and I'm working and I see it's beginning to develop. Then I have this other, I'll just say, demon seed, who has no sense of reality in what good things he can be doing and should be doing, even though I try to get them to understand that and point towards, what your future could be and the things that are waiting for you. His mind may turn towards that and for about 5 minutes, and then later, or you send them to the principal's office and 3 minutes later they're sending them back. So it's like, well, I just got away, with some time away from having to go and do no schoolwork. And that part bothers me the most is because it's sort of like they're asking for help, but they don't know how to ask for help. And there's nobody there to steer them in which way to go to help.
And that's a tough position you're in, as any sub really. You're walking in cold. I remember as a teacher, for lack of a better term, just kind of warning my students that I didn't want to come back to my desk with notes, bad things about my children. I would tell them, it's the same thing as if my own children at home.
Right.
It would break my heart for another adult to say something bad about them. So, I don't want to come back and find those notes. And we'd kind of get into an agreement about it, and then oddly enough, at sometimes it would be the least expected one who I got a note about. The one I never had any problem with him, but I got a note today, and so I was like, who? And I asked when I speak to the child, and they go, "Oh, I know, I was just doing it because you weren't here."
But go ahead. No,
quick question. Are the students and teachers? Is there too much of a generation gap, or is it too unrelatable between?
It depends.
Generations.
We have teachers aging right anywhere from 23 to 60.
Okay. Do you think the younger teachers relate more to these students, or is it still hard for even them because they're dealing with a systemic rules that they have to teach up under?
There's bureaucracy in school systems, but the challenge that I've found with my younger teachers, now yes, they have the physical energy and they have the enthusiasm, and they're out there and they're ready to go and they're ready to go. This is chapter 2 in my book, by the way. It's about the first year of teaching. And the difference between what I thought when I walked across the stage, what I thought I was walking into, and a year later, what really happened that first year. But the thing about teachers just entering the profession, and I'm going to speak high school for a minute, they have to be very, very careful about keeping the line drawn. Because if you think about it, you've got a 16, 17, 18-year-old, and the 23, 24-year-old is your teacher. It can be disciplined and it can be more challenging for them. Because they're kind of still in the mindset. So basically, they have to work extra hard to create structure and stick to it. Create rules and stick to them.
And mature within the profession.
Yes.
And I think the interesting thing about education, especially there, you have oversight. I mean, depending upon where you are, you have overfilled classrooms. You have a teacher that is maybe a classroom that was suited for 20 kids. There's 40 kids in the class. They're coming now, especially now from learn social emotional anxiety, because we're living in unprecedented times for a lot of these children, and a lot of these children don't feel safe maybe in their home environment. School is that safety zone, but you have this teacher, especially the teachers that are very empathetic, dealing with oversized classes, dealing with, and this is not all schools, but dealing with admin, like systemic, educational issues that have been going on for years. I guess I've said all that to say this. What do you say to a teacher, and I know this is kind of hard to put in a nutshell, but what do you say to a teacher that has been in the field for a while, a teacher that is just starting in the field, or somebody that is going into education to become a teacher, that is seeing or experiencing all these things that are happening? Teachers, let's be real, at this point have been public enemy number one in a lot of things. Why isn't Johnny learning? And then teachers are being forced to put their backs against the wall and saying, well, we want to do, and I'm making this blanket, but we're trying to do what we can do, but we have an admin that is saying, cookie cutter, like all children learn the same. We have parents that are not sympathetic to, what we're dealing with. We're not just dealing with your child. We as a teacher are dealing with the whole classroom. In some cases like high school and, elementary school, and they transfer classes, you might be dealing with, half the school. You know, so I guess, and this is a lot to kind of, because I want to get to your book. We want to get to your book. But what words of encouragement do you have for people that are like, I'm getting out. I don't want to even start. I'm in it. I guess I'll just have to tough it out until I retire. What do you have to say to that?
I try to have realistic strategies available. If I'm in a training session and that same type frustration that you just mentioned, it can come out in the midst of a training session, in the midst of a conference presentation. It will come out. So first of all, I listen, and then we start talking about more specifics, you know, of what's happening with you. Now, as far as leadership, policy, procedures, obviously those are usually things that they take for a new teacher, to their mentor. You know, teachers who are just feeling the frustration, having peer support is important. It really is. It's important. And even having a peer who you see seems to be doing okay with it. And every time you talk to them about how you're feeling, you don't see that same frustration.
Okay.
I say, you know, look around you. Who's doing well at this? Who doesn't seem to be struggling? And one of the things that we see all the time is the child who's a behavior issue in one class and not in another.
Thank you.
Ask the teacher why. Ask the teacher what they're doing. Why? That child's never done any work for me. What? What are you doing? And be honest with yourself. And really anything that you're dealing with. Now, let's not forget, we can never forget that the teacher's not in total control, because there are always things that, you know, come down that they have to deal with. And so that's not something that, you know, they can control. But my focus is more on, now I have a couple of chapters in my book for leadership.
Okay.
Specifically for leadership. But for teachers, how can you make this work for you now? You've finished school, you put a lot into this.
Right.
And student loan people are coming, I promise. They're coming for you. So you want to be you know, gainfully employed. And if your first school doesn't work out, or your first classroom, or your first whatever, you know, think about, into self-awareness. Why? Why am I miserable every day? Why am I going home with a headache every day? What is it that I don't like? What would I like? What would make this better? And there are some things that teachers can say, well, and they do. I used to see it all the time when I evaluated teachers. They'd come back their second year and say, you know, Ms. Anderson, I decided I'm going to try this year. Because I noticed that person over there doesn't have a problem with this. So and they'd come back doing things, fixing up the room. So I think just looking at, you know, where you can improve. Maybe it's not even improvement. It's just, like I said, of creativity. Thinking of new ways. You know, my way didn't work, so let me try something else.
And this leads our segue into your new book that is coming out, in 2024.
That's right.
So give us the title. Tell us all that we need to know about it, and those that are really going to be interested in this.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I talked about doing too much, and the students saying that. I have latched onto that in a big way, because it has so many different meanings to so many different people. And the students, I actually polled online educators and found out, what do you feel when they say that, and what do you think? So actually, that has become my title, Doing Too Much. Now, the subtitle of my book actually represents what's in the book, which is 8 keys to stretching your school into success, or into excellence. So just changed it. 8 keys to stretching your school into excellence. So obviously the stretch is coming from me, but there are 10 chapters. The first 8 chapters, each one has a key point in it, and then I go in depth about using my perspective, first of all, and then each chapter I've interviewed someone. So in real life, either I've interviewed someone, or one of my interviews that are on YouTube now, I referenced those. I did something called Parenting. You talked about parents. I did during COVID, I did a session called Parenting Through a Pandemic.
Wow.
And I had 8 parents from all across the country,
Oh,
all different, and it's on my YouTube channel, but it's also discussed in
What's
my
the name
book.
of the channel? I apologize.
Dr. Benita J. Anderson.
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah. And we'll include all this information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the book starts out, and it started out with, I'm going to say the first chapter is all about teacher preparation. Just there's so many ways people get into the profession now.
Mm.
So the whole thing, the first whole chapter is all about just preparation. Then what it's like now to prepare to go into the classroom. And as I told you, from there I go into the first year teaching. I enjoyed writing that one so much because it is a memory for every teacher, everyone who's ever taught. That first year is a memory. And for the next 3 chapters, I focused on nothing but the pandemic.
Wow. Okay.
So everything from one chapter is all about the teachers and what we talked about, changes that they have to make now, or kind of what Marcus brought up. We can't use worksheets anymore every day. You can't. There's no reason, no need to come in at the beginning of the school year and put in for all these copies of these papers.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I hope they work out for them, but I know in some cases, that's when we start running into problems.
Okay.
Because if you think about 2 years being at home, looking at a screen,
Yeah.
coming back to school now to look at a paper, excuse me, it's just not a good transition. So, I have a chapter in there about engagement. What do we do? What can we do different? You know, and why should we do it different?
Okay.
Because the kids still have. First of all, they have learning loss.
Yes.
They're behind.
Yes.
They're behind. So you're trying to catch them up, but they're also traumatized. And before I go on, so are we.
Yes.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
At our age, at some as adults, we lost parents, we lost aunts and uncles, we lost people dear to us during this 2-year period. We also dealt with the same things that they dealt with being in the home. And when I say we, I mean adults.
Yeah.
Being in the home. I'll have a chapter in there about just even families and the challenges that they faced from being in the home together every day when they weren't used to it. So with the pandemic section of the book, which is really the meat of it, I look at, and there's research in every chapter. Every chapter has research piece, so it's not just me babbling. There's research to back up to back up everything that I'm saying about the challenges of being in the home together. Even some of the interviews that I put a link in there for you to go to my YouTube channel and look at some of the interviews where the parents were very honest about what it felt like to be. First of all, if you have 2 parents working at home, there's a bandwidth issue. You got 3 kids. You're trying to have one in one room. You're trying to separate them. So that was my hope was that I actually broadcast that during the pandemic.
Okay.
Because I wanted to give hope to parents who were just feeling like, what in the world has just happened here?
Thank you.
And even couples, they said the same thing. It's like, this is a lot of love. When they when you've been working every day outside the home, and then everybody's in the home. On the other hand, they did talk about a positive side of that too. But the last thing I'm going to say about the format of the book, I'm using it to train, and so it has reflection questions at the end of each chapter.
Oh, nice.
So it will be a part of my teaching, and even the schools that purchase it, they can do the same thing. Just use it, and there's a list of reflection questions at the end of each chapter.
You can even come out to them and show them how all this stuff works.
Absolutely.
So it has been a pleasure. It has been an absolute pleasure having you here. And when the book is released, we have to have you back.
So we can say where to get copies and all that good stuff.
I would love to.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And And Albert, since you brought this lovely person into us with the introduction, we need you to do the outro with her before I finalize the ending.
Okay, we're going to do this properly. I'm going to make sure that Dr. Anderson knows that we appreciate her.
Yes.
Know that we love to see you. We want to see you back. Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, let me formally wrap this up.
You know better than that.
I know that was my fault. That was my. You all that watch this know that was my fault.
I've been on my good behavior. I'm trying like crazy to finish this.
Well, first of all, before we end it, thank you, producer Marcus, for your amazing questions and the fact that we could not do this without you. And yes, that bell tells us that it is time to end this. Thank you all for joining us on the Seed Group Podcast. Thank you, Seedlings. Thank the wonderful Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
And as always, plant a seed and watch it grow. Bye-bye.